thoughts on the airways hum. Hear the tales of where they're from. Stories whispered, not in lies. Jobs they held through changing times.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Amplify Your Signal, where we elevate stories, amplify voices, and support one another one episode at a time. I'm your host, Nicole Roberts, and today I'm joined by someone whose voice and work I've admired for a long time, Kat Kibben. They are a leadership speaker, LinkedIn top voice, and the founder of 3 Years Media. Kat's also the author of The Bounce Back Factor, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. Kat, welcome to the show. Tell us about the work you do and the impact you're here to make.
Yeah. So I thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. The fandom is totally mutual. And today I'm here to talk about how to navigate uncertainty with confidence. That's one of those skills that, the first half of my career I spent in the world of recruiting. I have been a technical employer brand copywriter, a managing editor of a blog about recruiting, a VP of marketing for the HR technology companies that we all know and love. And at some point in all of the world of recruiting, I realized that if nothing changes about you, nothing changes. And specifically when I reached kind of that leadership part of my life, and I just finished a book about it, and I'm really excited to be here to talk about it.
Such a good book. I mean, I know that I posted a million photos of physically having it in my hands, and it's so funny because it's on my bookshelf now. That's how you know I'm done with it. It's on my bookshelf now, and I was looking around. I'm like, where is it? So I can pick it up, but it's also over your shoulder. So if anybody wants to
It
know what
is.
it looks like, there it is. And we'll link to the book and all of that in the show notes. So you lived in a van for 3 years. And honestly, I mean, I think that's a metaphor in itself. What is something from that time that really reshaped your view of leadership and self-reliance?
Yeah, I have very long answers to that, literally hundreds of pages about it. But I think at its core, what it really rewrote for me is the fact that I was living a leadership life where I thought there were rules. And I'm sure a lot of you are going, wait, did they just say I thought there were rules? There are rules. And yes, of course, there are principles and guidelines dictated by our government, but I don't think that those are the baseline of great leadership. Those are the baseline for legal criteria, right? And ultimately, what I was doing is first, when I was leading myself early in my career, I'd make all these rules of what good meant, of what hard work meant. And when I became a leader, I thought that's how everyone had to work, that these rules that I adopted to lead myself were how everyone had to be. And it wasn't until I got out of the standard four walls, the standard leadership, into the van that I really realized that all these rules were made up and they actually weren't helping me get where I wanted to go.
There's so much that resonates with me, and I'm sure with our listeners with that. I mean, sometimes rules are thrust upon us, right? And sometimes rules are self-imposed where we think that we need to fit into these molds, into these rules and guidelines and boxes in order to be worthy and be accepted and be, keep our jobs and all of those things. You've said that your business didn't start from inspiration, it started from necessity. What did that experience teach you about boundaries, burnout, and being your own safety net?
So this, if you want to read kind of the long version of this story, it is one of the chapters in the book, but ultimately 3 Years Media did not come from some like yearning for entrepreneurship or an aspiration of running my own business. It came because I got really tired of the leadership and the toxicity that I experienced in corporate America. You know, I had a type when it came to managers. The word you would probably use is toxic, but on the surface, you don't catch that, right? And I'm sure this is going to feel so familiar to other people who are listening to this because this doesn't exist as an anomaly. This is constant in the US, in corporate America, which is I worked for the people who always thought they were the smartest ones in the room. My type was the 40 under 40, has 12 awards on their wall, has is the 35-year-old VP of global blah, 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 right? Like I was really attracted to that because I thought that's what I wanted. And unfortunately, what I saw is the consequence of what happens in the US, where we invest heavily in skills, not leadership, in the first half of your career. And then we put you in leadership positions and expect that those skills prepare you to lead people. And that is a false illusion of success. And it's why we have insane turnover in our businesses. It's why we have people who quit because of the manager and all of those other things that we've heard, is because we put people into positions because they're great at work and we create no path for people who are great at their job but are
Mhm.
not supposed to be leaders.
Yeah.
But I worked for them. And
Yeah.
long story short, that collided with another crisis in my life, and one that so many people go through, which is caregiving for my mom. My mom is a military officer, retired, and she went from a marathon running PT completion officer to 100% disabled overnight because of rheumatoid arthritis. She pulled up the sheets on her bed and tore every single tendon in both of her hands. And so I moved in with my mom and my stepfather to help just take care of her, because we all know what happens when you don't have any hands, right? You absolutely need care. And I was working a 100% remote job. So there was no reason why it wasn't okay for me to sit there instead of sitting somewhere else. And I was working a 24-hour schedule. So for 12 hours, I did technical copywriting for some of the biggest brands in the world. And for the next 12 hours, I sat next to my mom and made sure she had every single thing she needed. And if you've ever had surgery or long-term illness, you know that you don't sleep. Sleep is usually the last thing you get to do. And about 2 weeks into that, I made a mistake. And when I say a mistake, I just want to clarify, I didn't miss a meeting with a client. I made a punctuation mark mistake. I missed a period on a slide. And the feedback was that I had no talent as a writer. This wasn't the first time I'd been given feedback that I thought was abuse. I felt traumatized, and I don't use that word lightly. I think we all have work trauma from conversations like this. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to take it anymore. And I probably was tired and delirious, but I marched into the living room where my mother was propped up watching The Real Housewives of Somewhere. And I said, I'm quitting my job and I'm starting a company. And she said, no, you're not. That was 9 years ago in about 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's so wild to me the way that people can just be so dehumanized at work, right? Like, never mind what was going on with you, never mind how long you'd been with the company, never mind any of those things, never mind that this was not a life and death mistake. I mean, it's not like somebody didn't get paid, or, I mean, and those are big deals, right? They can also be fixed. You can ACH people money. Like, I've been the head of HR, I've done it, right? Like, I've had somebody on my team who was like, I didn't pay so and so, whatever, right? And I said, it's okay, nobody died, right? Like, we'll ACH them the money. Like, it's going to be inconvenient and it'll be, but we can fix it, right? You missing a punctuation mark on a slide, maybe I don't fully understand why that was some catastrophic thing that was worthy of telling you that you were worthless, but I can't help but believe that that had so much to do with that person and very little to do with you. And we have to take care of people better. Get your own together so that you don't take out whatever's going on with you on the people that report to you. I'm so sorry that happened to you because that was
Thank
not
you.
you.
Thank you. And at the time, I feel like I didn't know, right? But I did know in the deepest parts of me that I was a writer.
Mhm.
And that's what I loved. And he probably could have said anything else, and I would have taken it on the nose and kept marching, because it was a good job by all dimensions: pay, benefits, travel. I mean, it opened doors in my life. But I think that because we haven't trained people on giving good feedback, we've just created a cycle where we accept the feedback that is given. And the most dangerous part, as much as we talk about the delivery and that feels like the most traumatizing part, the most traumatizing part is how we package it and hold it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And for a long time, I held what people said about me too close. And this was the first time that I was like, I'm going to burn all of these packages.
Huh?
And it opened the door to this life that completely surprised me in every single way. And has really just been transformative to my belief in self. And I think in my ability to help other people too.
Positive and negatively, right? I mean, I can remember, and I still have it, right? I still have like the folder of the thank yous and the kudos and the whatever. But it's a delicate balance, right? Because it can be, yeah, those things are nice and that reinforces what I already feel about myself, right? That is the sole feedback of, am I doing a good job? Am I worthy of this work, right? And when you have a fragile sense of self, it can be so dangerous because maybe then one day somebody gives you adverse feedback and now it's like, okay, well, so now I'm completely worthless in what I'm doing. And people just don't understand the impact that they have on others, and they can be so careless in the way that they package that feedback. I love that you're talking about this.
Thank you.
So in the book, The Bounce Back Factor, it's all about helping leaders navigate uncertainty. So let's unpack that a little bit. What does it really take to create psychological safety in uncertain times?
Yeah. Well, and I think you just hit on this with what you were just saying about like, you kind of have to fix yourself before you can expect to be a regulating feature, someone who is trusted when uncertainty happens, because the uncertainty is inevitable. Who you trust is not. Who you trust is a series of actions that happen a little bit all the time. And ultimately, what I find is that when leaders start doing the work, right, when leaders start to change, the organic effect is an uplift of every single person, and it increases the resilience of every person who works with that leader because the leader starts to model things. And when the leader models, people adopt the behavior just as much as they adopt the toxicity. They adopt the good stuff too. And I think that has been one of the most fascinating things about all of this for me is that when I went into this and I was like, I'm going to write a book about navigating uncertainty. Now, I want to contextualize that I had to move into a van for 3 years to figure out how to do this. And so I thought it was hard, clearly, or I would not have made this choice. Now, alternatively, it's really, really easy to deploy this on your team in a really, really healthy way because it goes back to basics of how we are good and we are goodness to ourselves. And I think you'll see that in the book, right? And that's the feedback that I get when I go and give this presentation is people are expecting me to be like, invest $1 million in therapy and go in a hyper chamber and drink water and all these things that they think's really, really hard.
All the things.
Right? When really I'm saying like, statistically, we never ask for help. That we forget that backwards is a direction too. That it is in our power to stop doing things we shouldn't do or things that destroy the morale of our team. We are not held by law to doing. We are not doing is not performance. And all of these, when you say it, you're like, well, yeah, no shit. Right? When you hold that and you reflect it back to work, you realize how hard it is to accomplish. And that's why I think it has to start with you.
Yeah. And if you've behaved in a way that is outside your values, outside your character, I mean, they call it losing your temper because you lost control of yourself, right? If you do that, apologize, right? Show up with your team and say, hey, none of your fault. For myself, I didn't show up the way I wanted to in that moment. I'm so sorry. That's unacceptable. I don't expect you to forgive or accept the apology, but for me, I want to apologize. That shows so much strength of character. And we are all human and people are constantly working on themselves. And for you to admit and to acknowledge like that wasn't okay, because it's when the people come back the next day or even show up in the next meeting and they act like nothing happened, that's when it's toxic.
Exactly.
You're not in a joking rapport with me. Everything's fine. Everything is not fine. We're going to address what just happened.
I love that you just said that because I think we believe that real life is like social media. And because we are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us that people can't change. And if people take nothing else away from this podcast, please hear me. You will have no hope. And hope is so critical to surviving. You will have no joy if you cannot believe in some part of you that people can change and that somebody who feels counter to you is always worth talking to. I am not trying to Pollyanna anything. So for those of you who are not looking at the visual of this, I am very obviously gay. I am trans. I am non-binary. I am not going into this with some rose-colored glasses about believing that, oh, we can change anyone's mind, but I believe people can change because I changed. I say that with my whole chest. I grew up in a rural Southern family with 2 military parents. I have had to undo, unwind, and change, evolve. And all of us can say and know that we have changed in some way. You know that. And if you are capable of it, which is the hardest thing for any person to do, you have to believe somewhere in your heart that anyone has that potential. And if you center that as the basis of your belief in leadership, I really do think the growth is possible. It's when we don't think people can change that we get stuck.
People can change. They have to want to change. They have to acknowledge that there's a need to change. I read the other day, I don't know who said it, so I'm not even going to try, but essentially what it boiled down to is when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain to change, you will make the change, right? And so if we stop condoning toxic producers, they are amazing. They hit all their numbers. They're, big time revenue builders for the organization, but also they leave a trail of bodies in their wake. If we stop celebrating that, maybe it impacts your bonus. Maybe it impacts some piece of your earning potential that's going to hurt, because people won't listen to constructive feedback all day long. But until there's something tangible attached to it, they're not going to see that there's an actual need to change. So, oh, well, so-and-so probably told you that you had to tell me that, right? But between you and me, it's totally fine. And I'm still getting my bonus. So you're demonstrating to me that it's actually still okay. And by the way, when you do that, you've just demonstrated to the entire organization and anybody that was impacted by that we're saying one thing, but nobody's keeping it a secret. And we're now demonstrating to you that we actually do condone that behavior. But don't you do it because you're not as high a producer as that person and you'll probably be out. I mean, we send those messages every day.
Yep. And you know what that does is it plugs uncertainty into your psychology. So it tells you you're part of a P&L. And if there's a hard decision to make, you will have the consequences, not us. That's what that says. And point blank, there are a million different studies that prove this. There's so much research that if people feel uncertain, they are not top performers. I'm so tired of that. Let's talk about the P&L. And I can sit here, I can give you all of the data about attrition and how that impacts your bottom line. And it doesn't show up on the front end, it shows them on the back end. It costs you 1/3 of a first year salary to backfill a role if they quit within the first year. Like, I can sit here and cite all of those statistics for you. But I believe that's the bottom line, is like, we will never get where we want to go if we have a bunch of people who know they don't matter sitting around creating innovation. And this next market cycle, these legacy companies that are too big to fail, game on. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to call it right now. That'll be my forecast for the future, is like, truly too big to fail is about to find the biggest hole that they could fall in, the Grand Canyon sized hole, and it's going to be people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, we're starting to see it, right? Like this time last year, 90% it's why I created this podcast, right? Like 90% of my LinkedIn feed was, I'm open to work. I've, subject of a layoff. I'm whatever. I've seen in the last 2 weeks, I'm making a move. I'm happy to share that I've just done that. Like that frozen market is starting to break up. And the people that sat still and didn't make a move and didn't vote with their feet because of the uncertainty in the market, they're starting to make moves. And if you had your entire go-to-market strategy, your entire success and of the strategic plan hinging on people like that, listen, you're about to get a rude awakening because people are starting to move around.
Exactly. And companies are starting to thin, right? inevitably with AI, I think we're going to see this shift into like high volume contract work where each of us has 4 or 6 employers, not one. And I think that allows for a lot of freedom on one hand, right? It allows us to like choose what we want to do and be able to mix up our work and not be stuck. But alternatively, it creates a higher pressure system for the company because if we have mobility at our fingertips, if our healthcare is not attached to one role, suddenly your bad behavior doesn't just have back end consequences that we bury inside of a P&L. It has very front end consequences, and your projects will not get done. If you're going to invest in anything right now, I don't think it's the technology where you should be pouring all your cash. I think you should be pouring it into all of your people and making them really confident and really good at their jobs.
Yes. Well, and your people will always take care of your business and your customers. And when they feel valued and appreciated and supported and seen, they will take care of your business every time. Like you don't have to worry about, you can't overinvest in people. That will always give you the best return is truly investing in your people.
100%.
So we talked a little bit about layoffs in the past and the trauma of layoffs. And, obviously I've been through it on both sides. And it is truly like somebody asked me about a layoff in my past, and they said, um, essentially were asking me like if everybody had done their part in the day and if the day went well. And I said, no, it was horrible. It does not matter how well oiled it was. None of those pieces matter. It is still a terrible day. Somebody still lost their job. Somebody still had one expectation going into the day and ended up with another one. What, in your view, is the difference between when a layoff is traumatic and one that isn't?
Yeah. I have had a good layoff. All right.
Mhm.
And I have had a traumatic layoff. So let me talk through the dynamics of the good one and then we'll contrast that to the bad one. So at the highest level, the good one, my boss was laid off before me. And when she got the envelope, she came into my office, she shut the door, and she said, I've been laid off today. Here's what's going to happen. I've been through this before, and I want you to understand how this goes in startups. This was during the dot-com bubble, and this was very, very helpful to me, okay?
Mhm.
And she sat down and she explained to me what I could negotiate, what I could not negotiate during a layoff. She explained to me that because I was one of the people getting paid the least, I was going to be held on to the longest. I am someone who's there to keep the lights on, and they will invest in someone to keep the lights on until the last minute. She walked me through how to find a job, that she would be welcome to helping me with referrals and networking. And you know what she could have done? Packed up her crap and left. She took a full hour to sit me down and explain to me that I needed to prepare for what was happening next because it was happening. It was just a matter of time. And in the meantime, she explained anything that I could expect, gave me her personal phone number. I mean, it was like a very, very easy. And so by the time that I got laid off and he called me into the room and gave me the same envelope I had seen every single one of my coworkers carrying around at that point, I knew exactly what to expect. I knew that it was coming eventually. I had already ended my lease. Like, I was able to be so prepared about what was happening in my personal life and also to know with no doubt it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't a screw up. I wasn't stupid. This is a financial decision that a company had to make in the same way that we make when we cancel a subscription. It is what it is. Fast forward, and I tell this story when I do my keynote talks about job postings and recruiting because I think we forget that there's someone on the other side of a job posting and that every single one has a story. And some might be as dramatic as mine, but regardless, they deserve care and compassion because I lost my job 2 days before I closed on a house. My manager knew I was building a house. My manager knew I was going through this process, and they also knew they were going to do layoffs. And they created a fake meeting on my calendar and told me it was a one-on-one with my manager. And I went to the manager meeting and I get on the call and I could hear it in his voice. And I knew it was happening only because I am a highly perceptive person of other people's emotions. And the worst part is that he did the spiel. I'm sorry, today's going to be your last day. And HR joined the call late. This is one of those things that will stick with me. And this is the part I don't tell during the keynote. So they did the whole spiel. I panicked. I went home. but I never tell the part about how about 20 minutes into that conversation, when the awkward silence happens, when
Mhm.
they've read you all the things and then you're sitting there and you're like, do you have any questions? And you as HR have to sit there very politely and pretend you're not uncomfortable. I hear ding. This is back in the go to meeting world, when you get that little like attention that someone joined to the meeting and HR joins and she gets on and she goes, hey, it's name redacted for privilege.
Right.
And my manager's like, hi, we're here. And they go, how'd they take it? And I said, I was 20 something. I just want to contextualize this because it was pure rage that came out of me next. And I said, I'm still effing here. That as an HR and recruiting professional, that sat with me for a very, very long time. I felt like I did not matter. I felt like I had no perspective. I felt like I was thrown off of the side of a cliff. And it took a lot of therapy to heal from that because they almost took away one of the biggest and most important steps of my whole life, my very first house.
I'm so sorry. That's not
How
right.
how'd they take it?
How do you think they took it?
And this was not some junior HR associate. This was the VP of HR in Boston, Massachusetts, who had worked at multiple .coms, who had all the resume and everything. It's bad behavior, as my mother would say, piss poor behavior caused by piss poor planning. Join a meeting
Correct.
late.
Do you feel like when someone behaves like that in a high stakes situation like that, it's because they have no context whatsoever and no awareness, but also like didn't happen to them, right? Like this was another meeting on their calendar. Like the biggest thing that I coach leaders on and coach HR on when doing a layoff call is don't ever make it about you because you still have a job at the end of the day if you do, right?
Yes.
Don't ever make it about you because it's not about you, no matter how bad you feel. And you can empathize without making it become, and this is so hard on me, and I've got 15 of these calls today. Literally nobody cares. Like go talk to your network and your therapist and your dog and whatever afterwards, right? Like eat your ice cream, curl up with your cats. That's your after hours activity, right? The biggest thing is be compassionate, give the person time to kind of process, follow up with everything that you just said in writing, but make sure you're in the right mindset that you don't walk into that like, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on with your life?" So, I want you to know like that shape shifting is ridiculous and can make people feel worse if that's even possible. I mean, like you said, like joined late, so you heard the bell, and they did not have their, I don't say your game face on, but did not have the right energy and compassion to walk into that meeting. Because here's the other thing: their job was to not just support you, but it was also to support that manager. And for them to be like, how'd they take it? Are we referring to the person that I laid off? Are you referring to me? Because I might have more of these that I have to do today. And that dissociation that people can do because that's like self-preservation, basically. So they feel it, like break those walls down. You need to be compassionate and you need to make sure that every person there, whether you've got 10 more after this or not, like you're present, you're there for them, and you're going to make sure that they get through it. Both the person who's delivering the news and also the person that is being laid off, because you've just changed. I mean, might be buying a house, right? Might be about to face a cancer diagnosis, right? Like it might be a number of things that this person was like, well, the one thing I can count on is my job, right? And then now all of a sudden, the one thing that I can count on is not my job. So what does that mean for paying my mortgage? What does that mean for, I mean, you were going to have to show up showing proof of funds, clear to close, all those things. I mean,
Yeah. It's catastrophic,
it
at
really
least
is.
in my mind.
It really is.
And
It really can be.
I think it hits on something that you said earlier. And I just want to say, like, I think that is some of the best advice I've heard for managers going through layoffs broadly, because I think, again, we fall back into the rules instead of remembering that at our core, our responsibility is to the humans. And that is being responsible to the business because they are the business. You ever seen the machines run themselves? Have you ever seen a company? No. Nothing happens without the power of our minds. People do matter. And it's so inhumane to me that we have reached a place in our society where we forget how important and how much people, and this is both like our toxic trait and a thing, like work is the center of many of our lives because we rely on it for so many things. And to take it lightly just feels wrong.
To shame anybody, right? Like there's no good way to share details about this without outing people. But I was part of a conversation about laying off somebody, eliminating their role, whatever way we want to dress it up to make ourselves feel better. And there was a judgmental comment about one member of the executive team was expressing concern about the person because of the cars they drove, the house they lived in, the fact that it seemed like they lived beyond their means. Somebody else made a comment about, oh, well, their partner works, so they should be fine and whatever. Like, none of that is any of your business. And we are not shaming people for an addiction to food, shelter, and clothing. What are you doing? We are not shaming
Seriously.
people for needing their job for their livelihood.
Likely driven out by one of those toxic managers you promoted because of performance.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the reason why a lot of those I'm the smartest person in the room, just ask me people gets into those higher level positions is because when you're going through that process, you've got to sell yourself and your abilities. And nobody can sell themselves and their abilities more than somebody that has that mindset because they really do believe that nobody can do it better than they can.
Toxic egos everywhere.
Everywhere. So speaking of, we had a powerful conversation around rest and hustle culture. How do you help people to unlearn the idea that constant doing is the only form of value?
I love that. I think it is a slow process, right? But ultimately, when you start to reflect on the rules that do not serve you, I think it's really eye-opening. And so the next time you catch yourself being like, well, I have to. That's one of those like red flag words. When you say I have to, it's usually a sign of a rule that's made up because we actually don't have to do a lot of things. We are all autonomous adults. We all, make sure we get dressed and all of the other things in the morning. And that means that you also have autonomy to do the other important and special things in your life. And so I think the big reflective point is when you're starting to feel the consequences of rules that are made up. And one of the great examples from early in my career was that I thought that I had to end each day with fewer than 10 emails in my inbox. See, you're laughing because I would sit at my desk until almost midnight trying to accomplish that every single day. And you very quickly realize like this is just one of those things that doesn't need to happen. And when I slowly started to untangle that, it's like, oh, I have so much more free time because I am not trying to just do the next thing because I think I should. And exhausting yourself is never a good leadership strategy, I think is at the core of that.
No. I remember the moment in my career when I had a manager that told me, you're not going to get everything done in one day. And sometimes you're going to pick that up tomorrow. And the higher you get in your career, the less you're going to get everything done. Because I was an inbox zero person as well. It hadn't been put in another folder, replied back immediately, right? Like my emails were like instant message before there was instant message. And
Yes.
oh my goodness. No, I mean, was proud of myself yesterday that I deleted 1,000 pieces of spam.
Now I have, you ready for this? My email signature says you can expect a reply from me within 48 hours so that I can fully consider what you said. And let me tell you, boundaries. It makes life just a lot more pleasant to set expectations. But if you want to piss off a bunch of people on LinkedIn, tell them that you have that in your email signature. They will lose their damn minds.
Well, I think from you a long time ago. Please note that we work flexibly and I'm
Yes.
replying at a time that is convenient for me. No pressure, to reply. held on to that. And I actually had a executive that wanted to join our team because that was a very transparent value. And they said, "Oh, wow, I love that you have that on there." I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm doing emails all hours of the day and night. Like, there is no expectation for you to be on your phone and give me, I don't need an immediate reply." And sometimes people will say, "Oh, well, if you really want to eliminate that pressure, like just do the delayed send." But I'm not in charge of judging when the delayed send is going to not invoke some kind of stress or fear or trauma in you, right? Like, I'm just letting you know we work flexibly here, and I'm sending you at a time that works best for me. This message
Right.
is being sent when I am probably on my couch with my laptop half watching some show, right? And catching up on my emails. If it's sent in the middle of the night, that's what's happening because I'm not sitting in this desk chair. And it's okay
Yeah,
that you don't reply to me till later. Like, totally fine. I'm getting this off my to-do list. Yeah,
exactly. And why are we pretending? I think that's really the theme that I'm hearing from this whole conversation is like, say the thing, ask for what you need. We cannot pretend that leadership is some kind of practice in autonomy and secrecy, whether it's your schedule, whether it's your expectations, or it's saying, I need some damn help.
right. And nobody, PS, wants to move up in your company if your leaders are showing that you have to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week with no breaks and no rest, and that the exhaustion is what is promoted and celebrated. Nobody wants to pick up that job because right now they probably have some semblance of satisfaction in their personal life, satisfaction in their work life. If you once you boil it down, like I used to joke that I made like minimum wage if you would actually do the math into the amount of hours that I was working compared, because I would say, "Oh no, well my salary basically pays me to work 365 days a year." And I 1000% believed that, right? And I was like, "Hey, we're 24/7, I'm 24/7. Never mind that we were 24/7 and people worked around that 24/7. There was no expectation for me to work 24/7." But you believe it and you do it and you think like, I gotta, like, nobody can have a time where they feel like they can't get a hold of me. And it's okay. It really is okay. You want to make it safe. You set that example. Like, I started putting therapy appointments, doctor's appointments, like they weren't private anymore, right? It's like, I'm going to my weekly appointment and this is what I'm doing. And I encourage you to take care of yourself as well.
Exactly. I am a human being. And again, you modeled the behavior that
Yeah.
you expected from them.
Yes.
And that I think is so important. And it can also be toxic as hell.
Yes. Yeah. So when there's not humans involved and we're bringing AI into the room, into the conversation, AI is shifting how we work, right? What is the responsibility of leaders right now to prepare teams for the future, especially around the human skills that can't be automated?
Yeah. So ultimately, I think where we're seeing the most value from people versus machines is that people can contextualize the decision. They can say why X decision is better than another one. But the biggest thing that stops people from being able to do their human part is their fear. When people are scared, they're not going to use their best resources as far as making a decision. And so that's why I wrote this book and why I think people should be training and coaching their team regularly on how to navigate uncertainty with confidence. That's what it all boils down to for me right now is that if I could teach my team how to face uncertainty,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what happens next. I don't need to be a fortune teller. I don't need to know everything about the future of work. What I know is my team is capable of handling it. And to me, that's the benchmark of any successful leader is that they have a team that they know can handle whatever happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could distill one or two lessons from the bounce back factor that every leader needs to hear today, what would they be?
Stop pretending that you have to know it all, be it all, do it all in order for your team to thrive. Leadership is not an act of autonomy, it is an act of collaboration when a group of people attempt a goal. And so remember that your responsibility is to those people, not just the goals, and that the more that you help yourself that is what's going to level up your team.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Of
I think
course.
I think your story is going to resonate with people so much. And, we'll link to all of the things in the show notes. But
Of
thank you for
course.
your time. I appreciate it.
Of course. Of course. Thank you for the great conversation. Kept my brain going this morning.
Have a great day.
You too.
And to our listeners, we appreciate you sharing this story, rating us where you find podcasts, and for helping us to amplify voices, elevate stories, and support one another one episode at a time.
Pages blank, but hearts alive. Through their journeys, they still strive. Tales of passion, grit, and grace. Every journey